The snow was falling harder than anyone had expected that night, turning the small Canadian town into a blur of white. Roads were closing, cars were stranded, and the wind howled like it was trying to push people back indoors. But amid the storm, a young woman named Emily was stumbling down the frozen road, clutching her coat tight around her. Her car had broken down miles back, and she had been walking for what felt like forever, praying for some kind of shelter. Her lips trembled not only from the cold but from fear that she wouldn't make it. Just when her knees buckled and she thought she would collapse into the snow, headlights cut through the swirling blizzard. A pickup truck slowed down beside her, and the door flew open. Behind the wheel was a man, rugged, tired-looking, but with eyes that held both strength and concern. "Get in, now," he shouted over the storm. Emily didn't have the strength to argue. She climbed in, her body shivering uncontrollably as the warmth of the heater wrapped around her like a lifeline. The man's name was Daniel. He was a single dad, raising his 7-year-old daughter in a modest cabin just outside of town. He rarely went into the city, and most people knew him as quiet, reserved, and perhaps even a little distant. Life hadn't been kind to him. His wife had passed away years ago, and since then, his heart had been frozen in grief, locked away from the world. All he cared about was his daughter and surviving each day. As he drove Emily through the storm, he kept glancing at her. Her cheeks were pale, her eyes heavy with exhaustion. He didn't ask too many questions, he simply said, "You're not making it far tonight. You'll stay at my place until this storm passes." Emily wanted to protest, but she didn't have the strength. She just whispered, "Thank you," and leaned back, her eyes closing. When they arrived at the cabin, Daniel's daughter, Lily, ran to the door, her small face lighting up with curiosity. "Daddy, who's this?" she asked. Emily knelt down despite her trembling legs and smiled softly. "Just someone your dad helped tonight," she said. Lily immediately grabbed her hand, pulling her inside with the kind of innocent warmth only a child could give. Over the next few hours, Emily thawed by the fireplace, wrapped in a blanket. Daniel made her tea while Lily showed her drawings and toys. Slowly, the storm outside became less frightening, replaced by the quiet crackle of the fire and the laughter of a child. For the first time in a long time, Daniel found himself watching someone other than his daughter, and he felt something stir in his chest, something he had buried under years of silence. Emily shared her story in pieces. She had moved to Canada for a fresh start, but life hadn't gone as planned. She had lost her job recently, and with her family back home far away, she felt alone, as if the storm outside mirrored the one in her heart. Daniel listened, really listened, and though he said little, his presence carried comfort. The storm raged on for 2 days, trapping them together in the little cabin. They cooked meals, told stories, and played games with Lily. Each moment seemed to chip away at the walls Daniel had built around his heart. Emily's laughter, though soft and sometimes tinged with sadness, began to sound like music in a house that had grown too quiet. And Lily, bright and innocent, kept weaving Emily into their world as though she had always belonged there. When the storm finally cleared, Emily knew she had to leave. Her car was still stuck miles away, and her future still uncertain. She stood at the door with her bag, thanking Daniel and Lily with teary eyes. "You saved me," she said softly. "Not just from the snow, but from myself." Daniel wanted to tell her to stay, but fear kept him silent. His heart had been frozen for so long, what if it broke again? But as Emily walked down the path, Lily burst into tears and clung to her. "Don't go," the little girl begged. And in that moment, Daniel saw not only his daughter's need but his own. He stepped forward, his voice low but steady. "Emily, maybe you don't have to walk away. Maybe this storm brought you here for a reason." Emily froze, her heart pounding. She looked back at him, at the man who had rescued her in the snow, at the child who had melted her loneliness. And for the first time in years, Daniel's eyes softened with hope. She smiled, tears spilling down her cheeks, and whispered, "Maybe it did." That night, under a sky cleared of clouds, with snow sparkling like diamonds across the ground, Emily stayed. Not because she had nowhere else to go, but because she had finally found somewhere she belonged. And Daniel, whose heart had once been frozen solid, found it slowly thawing, warmed by the very person he had saved. The storm had tried to bury them in cold and silence, but instead, it brought them together. And as the fire burned in the little cabin, it was no longer just wood that kept them warm, it was love, fragile but growing, melting the ice of two lonely souls who had finally found each other. Would you like me to expand this into a script-style version with dialogue for a YouTube storytelling voiceover, so it flows perfectly in a 4-minute video?